Okay, this is your meeting ends.
All right, guys, this is Doc. You guys want to give us an update and what you got going on? Yeah, let's get it going.
Okay, thanks. So, Tad's been meeting quite a bit the last couple of weeks, and we've been keeping you folks informed with the minutes. Just wanted to catch up and kind of go through some things that we recommend to the legislature, and you can act on them in open session or tell us to go home. So I made up a packet for everybody. It's all pulled from the minutes. So we can just go through them. First thing is we have there's been some people that have expressed interest in joining the TAC, and of course we make recommendations. You guys make appointments. So,
But we want your recommendations also, and then we can put them all together.
I understand. So these are just people that have expressed an interest to us.
Yeah, that would be great, thank you.
So the first thing was the TAC recommendations for people to, right now we've been operating a couple of seats short. And so Jake Kipping is the general manager of the Hotel Saranac in Saranac Lake. He's expressed an interest in becoming on the TAC as a lodging person. Ernest Homeyer from the Lake Clear Lodge has expressed an interest. And Dan Prairie from Prairie's Orchards in Malone has expressed an interest as the ag tourism representative. So those are the three folks that, and we can give you more if you're interested in like a resume or something like that.
And which category are Jake and Ernest?
Jake is lodging, and I believe Ernest would be either tourism or lodging.
I think Chris Labarge is lodging right now as well.
And there's 2 seats.
Two seats for lodging. Yeah.
Actually, there's 3.
There's 3.
Because Sean Coleman's seat is.
Well, right for agriculture though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ag seat is open, and what was
We've
the
never
other
told the ag seat ever.
I'm sorry?
No, you didn't backfill that.
I mean, not that we should, I think we should, but I just say we never had anybody in that position.
Yeah, we had the person from Co-op.
We had Rick Levine
Oh,
and
Rick
then Sean
Levine.
Coleman.
Rick Levine and
Yeah.
Sean.
Yep, and then
that's-
Sean.
That's open.
Yeah.
But there are three spots open.
But what are the spots?
There's one lodging, I believe. This is just off the top of my head. I need
So
to
there's
confirm
ag,
that. And lodging. You're a board of 7 right now? Right?
Yes.
You're 7 right now. If There's
Well, actually,
there's
two
9
seats.
spots, and then there's 2 openings.
and it says a minimum of 9, so you could have.
Right.
Todd popping over, he just,
Yeah, I have had discussion with Todd,
that'd be good.
and, yeah, he's very interested in being more involved.
It does bring income to the area and helps out.
So that's just our recommendations. Do you have any questions for those folks?
I've talked with Jake Kipping, and he has been on the TAC before. He has experience. He's interested in being on the committee, is on the board, and is really interested in attending all of the meetings and having very active meetings. He's hoping that it's even more active than once a month, if that is the type of workload that's required.
That's good to hear. As Lindy indicated, he was on the TAC before, but he was working at the Point, very busy job. He wasn't able to make a lot of meetings.
So I specifically asked him, will you commit to attending 80% of the meetings? And he said, I'll commit to attending.
I do remember coming to
Yeah.
some of the meetings, but that's not like that.
So the next, so can we move on, or are we good with the recommendation? Okay, so the discussion on local development corporation tourism contract. We had a good conversation about how tourism is happening in the county, and that there are a lot of things, people are coming here, and it is definitely different. And the way that people are approaching things is definitely different. There's a lot more outdoor activity going on. There have been a lot of things going on in the county that aren't necessarily engaged in any tourism program at all at this point. And also there's a real need for guidance in the people that are coming to the area on, you know, what is available, what's not available, activities that they can participate in, and where they can go and what they can do. So that's a huge area of concern from a promotion and a resource standpoint. And one of the things that we talked about was we understand that there has been an increase in the number of participants in the occupancy tax program. So it would be interesting to see from a town basis, or, you know, without giving away the specific location, you know, where those, I would imagine it's mostly Airbnb and home rental kind of scenarios.
Fred's on right there, so.
I'm sorry?
Fran is actually on here too, so.
Oh, hello, Fran. So it would be good to get an updated, you know, where those things are happening, and we talked about that. So then we get into some specific LDC tourism income and expense report items, and we have some recommendations for you on those lines. Under income, the LDC shows Roost needing to make a payment for January employee costs reimbursed for $10,731. Under other outstanding items, there is a Roost expense item for Tupper Lake reimbursement of $97.50. TAC recommends that LDC discuss with Roost to zero out the income and expense items. And you'll see further on in the discussion that we're recommending that once the contract is taken off pause, that we have some very specific conversations with Roost, and we talk LDC and Roost, and, you know, figure out where the lines need to be. And so that's one area that we felt that it was something that could be taken care of fairly quickly. So how do you want to do this, Don? Do you want me to just give you everything and then you take it from there?
Yeah, well, unless somebody has, well, you can take it by section and we can discuss it as a sections if you want.
Okay.
It's up to you.
Yeah, that's
Whichever
it.
way.
Okay.
Ed, what do you want?
I think the way you're doing it's fine, and just to get into a little more detail, I don't think we've had that in a while, so everybody's on the same page, just going that through. Lindy, you all right?
Yes.
Andrea?
Okay, and then we talked about a bit more about some of the expenses in the income for the LDC. TAC recommends the legislature release $13.95 for LDC for staff salaries pre-contract, contract, and during the suspension. So TAC recommends paying the difference between monies paid by the county plus monies collected through the PPP, a total of $48,573, and the total payment for salaries and benefits, $49,968, a difference of $1,395. So we're looking at trying to make LDC whole, you know, given that they did receive a PPP.
Is this on the budget? Where?
Yes, that's in the budget.
Okay.
So is there any conversation about that?
I didn't follow that.
Okay, so basically, we looked at how much money LDC has paid out, how much money they brought in from PPP, and the difference is the $1,395. Is that accurate?
It was to a certain date. I'll
Yeah.
get back to it. Every day it's different.
So basically, the PPP is over, right? You got money gone, you want to get made whole for the difference.
And then no extension.
And then the C, TAC recommends reimbursement of all stated supplies and materials. And this is all in a budget. Did everybody get a copy of the budget? It should be in your packet.
So which line item is this in the budget? Is it like a total line item?
Administrative costs.
So that's the 3,800 admin
Administrative
expense?
expenses, 3,800. Some of the items are combined in that actual year-to-date
Okay,
column, first column.
okay, so there's like the 5,950, the 3,800, that's 9,750. So somewhere there's another $7,000. Okay, keep going.
So maybe, do you have a copy of the budget?
Is this it?
Yeah.
Are you guys
So maybe it would be
curious?
appropriate for Wayne to just talk about the budget at this point, since we're talking about money. And we have a concept in mind.
So our discussion revolved around how much money will there be available the rest of the year, how much should be spent, and what's appropriate. We don't totally know what the legislature's mind is as to how open we should be at this point, but the budget that should be on everybody's desk does go, we believe, to be an austerity budget. Working with the LTC, things, the first column on the left is the actual year-to-date expenditures through June 30th and income. They received 1 month's worth of occupancy tax, and they did get the PPP monies. That was a total of 48,550. 573 of income for revenue. On the expense side, we've broken it down into general and administrative, of which there are some salaries and benefits, and the administrative or office expenses. The marketing is the salary and benefits of the 2 employees that are doing the bulk of the day-to-day work. And then the paid marketing part, in the beginning of the year, before the contract was suspended, there was some money spent with ARTC and some other initial expenses, setting some stuff up. So total expenses have been $90,937. What we were looking at, and some of those items were what Brian was talking about before. Because they got the PPP money, they could keep the employees on, and we're looking to shore up some of the rest of the expenses that go forward. We tried to figure out how much money would be collected this year. So down on the bottom, there's already been collected and available $32,975. The unknown is what quarter 3 and quarter 4 will be this year. The 60,607 is basically half of the first half of the year's collection. So we collected 121 and change the first half of the year. That's saying we'll equal the second half of the year, the same amount that was collected the first half of the year. Even though at this point it appears more is open than what we had in our closed period, but conservatively, we're saying we'll collect the same amount in the second half. So that would leave collections, we're needing 155, the proposed 7-1, the green box up top, 155 would get us to essentially a break-even point if we collect that much between the 32 that we have and the 120 something that we'll collect. That allows some general administrative expenses for the LDC's office, and the marketing employees for the second half of the year. And then the paid marketing, we're allocating money to direct marketing, and go out marketing. We wanted to do more of the destination marketing and development, which we did 10,000 last year, and LDC did 10,000. We're proposing to do 10,000 again, and LDC would match the 10,000, so 20,000 more would be available the rest of the year for that. We don't believe we're going to be doing any Franklin County's open, everybody come here type advertising, but be able to do more targeted things like Franklin County, the golf courses are open, but not being well utilized right now. Some targeted Facebook marketing to maybe Syracuse, Rochester, Albany, to bring people in, so targeted online advertising as opposed to the big regional stuff or the Gulf of Par or the Canada stuff, the market, the border closed, so that's not really a place to spend money now. But Jeremy, to his credit, has sharpened his pencil, and the general administrative costs are much lower than we've ever seen in years past. And the whole goal all along was to try to free up money for targeted direct marketing of the county's assets. And this is a bare bones budget to at least start. We've also asked that if you approve and reopen this, if they want to do different specialized targeted things like the golf, TAC would approve those things, review those things, and approve those programs. Where in the past we asked for those things, but stuff just happened. So we're taking a much more proactive approach. Works or gets approved, it's bare bones, keep the doors open, and as the message for Franklin County grows, hopefully there'll be more money that can be allocated for doing that. This doesn't take into account any money of the 96,000 left over from last year that potentially could be available, or any surplus that might happen the second half of the year if collections are better than what we got in the first half.
So this is the only issue that I have is around the income and the salaries. Because technically, we've paid for a few weeks for the regional marketing managers, and that we've paid it to Rose because their contract didn't end until February 2nd. But Jeremy had an agreement with Rose that they would come in early to the LDC, and Rose would then give them those funds to pay, to compensate them for those salaries. So we've paid for the first few weeks. Is it 2 or 3, Jeremy? I'm not sure. Around January 13th, maybe, so a few weeks. So we've already paid, and that would really make up your deficit. And so that needs to be a conversation because Roost was our tourism agency of record until February 4th it was. And then they had the employees go to LDC sooner. You had an agreement with them to reimburse you for those salaries. So that should be some kind of revenue listed there that is incorporated in that $50-some thousand that we paid Willstone. Does that make sense?
You must have records of all that, I mean, email back and forth, speaking with Bruce on that.
Right, they actually gave us what the expense was that we were to charge.
Oh, they did give you money.
Yeah. So
But they haven't paid it.
They told us exactly what to charge when we invoiced them.
Oh, but they haven't paid you much. Okay. So you kind of got it out.
Right.
So, Donna and Fran, can you talk to the assumptions about Q3 and Q4? Is there any aspects of those monies that is there 10% that comes to Franklin County? Or?
So we collected at the close of June, right, Fran?
We had collected for second quarter $36,638.95.
Right, so then I deducted 10% and sent TAC and Jeremy an email that basically leave them, as Wayne mentioned, $32,975. But so So we've collected around 36,000 in that second quarter. So are you projecting 60,000 in the second quarter?
In the third,
Or
in the third quarter, they're projecting
60?
121,
It'll be 66.
66.
With the pandemic, it just, I can't project.
And out of that, then there is 10% that goes to Franklin County.
Treasurer.
So that's why it is down at 60.
Right.
The last column that I have over on the right, the total occupancy tax collected before they're taking out the 10%. Basically, at this budget, we're saying for the year 2020, $200,414 would need to be collected, which is less than a third of what was collected last year. We were over 600,000 last year
The projections is around 154.
for the second half of the year.
Well, we only have 32 for the first half of the year.
So 120, well, do 120.
We had 121 for the first half. We collected in the second quarter, 32,970. That's available. We collected 36,000.
So it's going to be someplace maybe between 35,000 and then 66,000.
We can hope, yeah.
And based on the way, at least, that we're seeing lodging going, at least for the summer months, that we should come in well over that.
Well, one of the things about it is also is half the budget is wages. 46% is, it's just wages.
Jeremy could probably talk to that more, but
I don't think we're gonna be doing any major, what we're gonna do with Facebook and things like that and multimedia. So how much do we need in wages? Do we need two people to do that much work? I guess we're.
Well, there's a lot of regular maintenance, usually, but there's a lot of regular maintenance that goes into the social media that we do, and also the contacting of the bloggers and the influencers and the people that are going to come here and write about Franklin County. The more information we can provide to them, the better the story becomes. And so that's where having a person with their finger on the pulse, regularly dealing with what's going on, is very important.
So, when we submitted our proposal, we thought that the regional marketing manager model that was already set up was pretty valuable because of the knowledge and relationships that those folks either have or can develop that is hard to do over a county of our geographic size. And so that's why we ended up hiring Phil and Kelly. And with a very limited budget that you want to use on actual paid media, that actually makes their role even more important as account managers. So if somebody has to actually push the button, there's a button. The TAP has talked about doing some sort of fall golf campaign that Phil, for example, would be overseeing. There's a bunch of steps that are required between us right here saying we want a fall golf campaign and actually having that show up on Facebook in front of the right people, from contacting the golf courses to the lodging properties, developing packages that everybody's comfortable with, making sure there are a landing page for people to go to when they click on the Facebook ad, to knowing what the demographic and geographic target areas of the Facebook ads are going to be, and making sure that's set up in Facebook, and having the graphic that people are going to see. There's a bunch of steps that go into even a modest Facebook campaign. And we are lucky enough to have 2 staff that can do that, which means you don't have to contract that out to a third-party firm.
That's kept going while we're on pause, all that's kept
But
going.
we haven't been doing any paid
No, but I don't
advertising.
even see much, I've seen some from the Center Lake Chamber of Commerce, and
You
most
should.
Chamber of Commerce. I haven't really seen a whole lot of tourism bring it down.
You should be seeing.
I've seen a little bit here and there, but
all the
nothing,
regions. I mean,
not over the 3 months, I haven't seen it. And I don't know what we've moved over the last 3 months.
Well, so over the last 3 months, we've been
Pretty serious.
following pretty much the best practices that's been in the industry of being very sensitive to the situation. And really, it's been no calls to action, nothing saying, come visit, nothing like that. It's been focused on just keeping the regions and keeping Franklin County in the minds of people who see who are paying attention, who like the pages, right? So you see, at first you see a pretty view of a sunset, and it's just a matter of reminding people that Franklin County is here. You want to keep that in their mind, but you don't want to invite them to come, especially in April, May. As we've opened up a little bit, you've seen posts about businesses that are open and how you can frequent that business in a safe way. So there hasn't been the kind of the active come to Franklin County, come to Malone Facebook pages that we're used to, just because of the situation. But as we transition, you would start to see more of what we're used to, but still, we're not out of the,
Every moderator.
right.
Well, I run a tourism business, and it's literally last minute. I mean, we get calls, so you have to have a person that's ready to be able to give information, like either via email or phone call, or even text. I mean, literally, with our business, it's been, we're coming tomorrow, what can we do? And so it's just that whole thing of, if somebody's looking for lodging, if somebody's looking for, that's the kind of thing that, we need to be able to have, hands on deck that can just respond quickly to inquiries that are coming in, and just deal with, where people can go, what people can do.
So that's why knowledgeable people.
I'm sorry?
That's why knowledgeable people.
Absolutely. And it's just really, it's been very interesting. It's a whole new,
It's gotta be the dumbest switch or that,
Yeah.
So in addition to the fall golf package, what could be potential examples of other items that?
It just, and we don't have time to go, I'd like to share, just tick through a list real quick, with a couple of caveats. We can't go into detail about each one of these, that's not the purpose of the meeting. And nor have all of these been discussed by TAC to come back to the legislature and say this is part of a proposed plan. That's something that the group still needs to do, but none of these should be anything that would be a surprise. But here's a list of things that I provided to Brian based on what I've been talking to with Kelly and Phil the last potential fall travel campaign above and beyond golf, a fall golf campaign, and again, as we know, some of this stuff is subject to the conditions on the ground with the pandemic. Winter travel campaign, ski and stay campaign, development of a Northern Franklin hiking challenge, continued administration of the Destination Marketing and Development Fund, which is referenced in the budget, creation and administration of a co-op marketing fund, which is referenced in the budget, working on expanding the cuisine trail, which exists there's an Adirondack Lakes cuisine trail, but looking to see how that can be expanded countywide, because there's nothing up here. Related to that is starting to explore agritourism more, which I've never understood as the more time I spend with this stuff. Tourism and agriculture are number one and number two businesses. So to me, working those two together seems like a pretty efficient use of time. And so that's something we'd like to explore.
Expand on
And you don't do it overnight, but we'd like to start looking at that.
We started that, I think the cuisine trails were a start, we've had discussions with, and done some things with Cornell Cooperative Extension and Soil and Water, and so we've always been excited about that aspect, it was
Yeah.
it.
just
Got somebody on the farm.
somebody on the farm,
Several
we've done bus tours, we've done tours and get excited about it, so, and we live here and know about it, so I can only imagine if we could do something like that.
Start to get the
For
word out.
people that don't live here, it's exciting stuff we have.
Especially now, there's gonna be much more, there's people that wanna do gardens in their backyard, they wanna raise chickens, and they wanna know where their food's coming from, so it's a good fit for Franklin County and for our tourism venues to be able to.
Yeah, we should be a leader in that.
You know, we have a lot of farms, small and big, actually.
Oh, yeah,
We're very fortunate.
and you have new ones developing, Dan Prairie is doing it.
Well, when we did our tour, we went to the hops, we went to the microbrewery, we went through the whole process.
And I wasn't invited.
Let me just get through this list. ATV, UTV development, both from the development side of trail networks, it's all, the infrastructure, but then also the marketing. We were talking at TAC that there's, even without doing that, there's an uptick in that activity in the county this summer. Snowmobile signage maintenance, the legislature appointed some excess funds to get signage out there on the snowmobile trails, which was well received, but as you know, things change, signs fall down, so making sure that's kept up is something that we'd like to spend some time on.
Did we do some of the GIS on that also, so that people could get from their phone? I don't snowmobile, but I know Henry does.
There was a glitch on,
There's
you
a,
know
there's
something
a
about
glitch on the, GIS or GPS site, that hopefully this fall they'll have completed. Bruce completed that, web app.
Jason, that was a Jason project.
Yeah, okay.
So follow up on that would be,
We'd like to make sure that's an ongoing activity so that the infrastructure that you invested in stays current, updated. PR was mentioned as far as building the relationships both locally with our stakeholders, but also doing press releases, coordinating fan tours when that kind of starts coming back online. Social media, website maintenance, community engagement, just helping back to Donna's point. There's things that we as residents know that the visitors don't know, but there's also sometimes things we don't know about our own backyard, and a level of confidence building that we can contribute to help people understand that they live in a pretty amazing place and that we should be supporting tourism. Just local support and outreach. Asset mapping is one that I know has been around for an interest for a while. A lot of good work has been done in that regard, but it's not necessarily in a format that's in where we want it to be. I talked about account management, so that's simply when we do need a vendor, or when we do want to place a Facebook ad, there's the process of start to finish, make sure the vendor is paid, all that kind of stuff. I Love New York administration, as a TPA, we field requests from I Love New York to provide information. One example during the height of the pandemic was that they had asked for examples of virtual offerings. So where in your county are there attractions in your county that have virtual offerings, since no one can visit, And, you know, a perfect example is the Wild Center that had the online videos and the audit and stuff. And so they will ask for things like that, and then we give the information back to I Love New York. There's also the maintenance of the listings in I Love New York. We had a request about a month ago where they had said that there's, I don't think it was something like 20 or 25 listings that are on ilovenewyork.com they were going to remove because it didn't meet their criteria, including some obvious attractions that should not be delisted from I Love New York. So Phil and Kelly worked on making sure that we gave the reasons not to delist them or updated the listings as necessary. And then ARTC representation, Adirondack Regional Tourism Council is the regional entity that manages the visitadirondacks.com website. And that's where so I Love New York website feeds to the visitadirondacks.com website. Visitadirondacks.com website feeds down to individual attractions and our regional websites. And as a TPA, I represent Franklin County on that board. And you know, there's different activities that we've been involved with ARTC. So that's just and that's something that TAC still needs to think about, like what of this list, and they may have their own list coming back with a actual plan that's relevant to the budget that is approved.
So I know we don't have time to talk each of these line items, but as you were going through, I think the Northern Franklin Hiking Challenge and the fall campaign, the winter campaign, the fall campaign, that all really brings people who might want to just take one tank of gas and drive someplace and do something and be active and engaged. I would also encourage perhaps reinforcing hiking in general across all of the Franklin County, because that's a big draw for many people. So I understand expanding on the Northern Franklin Hiking Challenge will require some inventiveness and drawing together resources, but keep the emphasis on hiking in general. Links with camping, links with people coming and engaging in the outside where they feel safe.
One of the things you see in the budget, I could just add, there's co-op marketing. We talked quite a bit of like maybe we're not saying Franklin County is open to the world per se, but if a business in the county, Hotel Cermak, whatever, the Orchard or somebody wants to do a specialized marketing campaign and they're willing to commit to it and pay for it, we would have money to leverage against it to co-op with them and make their money go further, make our money go further, and share with the business, and it would have to get approved by tax, similar to the Destination Marketing and Development Fund that was done last year with some of the excess money that's proposed now. The co-oping, if somebody wants to go to a trade show or go to something, some of his money could be used to match their expenditure and make everybody's dollars go farther when we're in an austerity situation right now.
Yeah, so one of the things that I was very interested in when the county decided to go with the Local Development Corporation and the IDA is the joining of tourism and basically industrial development or development of businesses. And so to me, that's very forward thinking. That's, you know, in this county with tourism being a major part of the business, you know, the businesses for the county, you know, having the IDA and the tourism in one house is very important, and having it based in Franklin County is, you know, very important again strategically for, you know, where we need to go to make sure that we get the first the primary seeding in marketing and promoting. You know, we at the time, we needed Roost to be able to push through the occupancy tax to make sure that we developed a proper way of doing business, and also being part of a larger scope didn't hurt us at all. Now I really feel like, you know, Franklin County is in a position to be able to stand on its own and to be able to, you know, market our assets in a prime position versus a third, fourth, or fifth position in a marketing campaign. And so that's where, you know, we really feel like the LDC is going to be able to represent Franklin County, the tourism side of things, and also the business development side of things. So that's where we're at from the tax standpoint is, you know, we unanimously recommend that the county lift the pause on the contract, and we allow LDC to get back to business and marketing the county. So there's several things. We had a meeting with Jeremy on Friday, the 24th, and there's several things. I don't know how much, we have 15 minutes, so I'm just kind of going through this quick. But you know, there were several things that we talked about. The primary things were there has been a lot of discussion in Tupper Lake and in Saranac Lake about how we move forward and how we market. And my recommendation would be that, or the tax recommendation would be that, you know, we have a sit down with Roost, and, you know, there could be members of the TAC present, there could be Jeremy, there could be local government officials present, but just try to talk through cooperatively how we're going to work, you know, because there are certain factions that are interested in having Roost still involved, and Roost from a regional standpoint makes sense. But from a local standpoint and from a Franklin County standpoint, making sure that Franklin County is getting first position, you know, it's very important that Franklin County be representing itself. And so that's kind of the position we're taking when we talk about, you know, the Franklin County specific marketing and tourism in this area. And so you can see through the actions that, and if you like, I can read each one of them. But basically, the idea is for Franklin County to be able to coordinate its marketing, to work with other partners, you know, like Roost, like potentially the Plattsburgh Area Chamber of Commerce. They do a great job in Canadian marketing. You know, possibly other organizations like the local Chamber of Commerce. Saranac Lake has a strong Chamber of Commerce that's doing some good things. And, you know, try to take what the resources that we have and positively make them work for the county and the businesses in the county. So if you want, I can go through each of the actions, or I can just answer questions.
Brian, I just got one question.
Yes.
So when this all started, obviously there's, I think, some miscommunication or misunderstanding between Pat and LDC, the roles and all that stuff. And the main thing, that's got resolved.
Yes.
You guys are unanimous. I mean, it's good to go. You got a good plan. You feel it. I mean, I was concerned at the start that, you know, we got to have a plan. It's got to go. Well, that's not the way this is going to work. I truly don't believe. I think with this pandemic, things are going to change daily. We need to be able to act quickly to create more tourism or more money, you know, for our local businesses. And does TAC have, you guys are comfortable saying that that's your plan? You're good to go with this route?
Yeah, I think that, you know, we've had 2 4-hour meetings and a 1-hour budget conversation. We have really, and we also have other groups that are working, you know, that are feeding, you know, information to us. You know, and I think that, you know, we all want to be on the same page, and I think that there is recognition on the, I mean, I shouldn't speak for Jeremy, but I think that, you know, there was a recognition that there was a quick start that should have been more inclusive. That wasn't, and I think the TAC is now in a position to be saying, you know, this is what the legislature wants. We work for the legislature. You know, we need to do these things appropriately. So I think TAC is working well together, and I think that you know, that's one of the reasons why we didn't recommend putting more people on the board until we got until we got, come to Jesus moment, I guess.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Whatever you want to call it.
So, building on Ed's question, there's a list of conceptual market items. Are you going to have another meeting where you're going to say how that conceptual market items integrates into this plan?
Yes.
Yes.
Are the discussions going to include the regional marketing managers moving
Yes.
forward?
Definitely.
So I see website listed on here again, and I don't think we have time, but Andrew Green, our Director of IT is here. Franklin County's in the process of a couple of months, we're going to be going live with a new website. And, you know, one of the issues we've had over the last several years is spending a lot of money on website development, and then we maybe don't end up owning it, or there's complications around that. So really want to carve out some time for Andrew to walk some of you through our county-wide website and what that could possibly look like, linking it out to Franklin County tourism. And so this is Andrew, you know, we have the utmost respect for him, and we just want to position ourselves moving forward. And it doesn't have to be like on the Franklin County website. He can talk a little bit, much better than I can. But you can have your own page technically. That's still our ownership, and that's a goal of ours. We need to own our website. And so I would like, as we move forward, that Andrew be involved in that discussion on behalf of Franklin County.
Because not only do we want our tourism on there, we want like even the individual towns, or if they want to link into it, I think we could do that, we talked about that before.
Yeah, you go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, we're in the process of finalizing what we're migrating from your website to the new one, and putting the site down together. And so I've added all the towns to our website. Not anybody who already has a website, we're just linking for now. And then we're going to leave a landing page for anybody else who doesn't have one, and then we will invite them to come in and they can put whatever they want on there, or just leave it. Right. Put their contact information
It's
on
there to use if they want it.
Yeah. That would be good.
Be a big improvement.
Yeah. Be much more functional, so.
Now, one of the problems with some of the existing sites, we will not name them, but the existing sites, is they have technical complications for adding material. Videos, pictures, formatting issues, you know, like 2 to 3 issues a day on the existing sites. You did a lot of vetting of this company relative to the ease of maintenance of the site. What's the reality in terms of what you've seen them produce?
So, I mean, as far as their content management system is concerned, it's what you see, what you get, so interface. So, we're encouraging any department head, you know, that wants to put the content, they should be able to do it. And that was what I drove when I moved to Southern Competitors. Like, it needs to be easy, because we're not gonna, my department's not gonna be able to do it all. So,
Except for me.
so it's gonna, you know, it's gonna be, they'll get in, they'll be able to put whatever they want. The support on the back end is, they're be able to call, even for simple things, like I don't know how to make this bold. You know, they're there, be called at any time to help walk our people through that. So it should be just a matter of, if they wanna put a picture in the upper left, they can put a picture in the upper left, and they can put their content wherever they want. And it's gonna be a lot different than what we have, which is very templated, where you've got a text section, and you've got a context section, and you get the documents at the bottom. It's gonna be modern.
Okay, so maybe as TAC and the LDC engage with Andrew, you might think about the things that are unique relative to marketing websites, like buttons and putting offers on and collecting money or having tickets, or the things that may be interactive, that may be other complexities, so that you can say, how would it work with that? That may not be as typical on an informational site like a Franklin County Center.
And it can appear to be a standalone site, right?
Yeah, and a lot of vendors do this, they have like a sub-site type model, where you can actually like build your own look, and it still remains a part of the main site. A lot of police departments do that, parks and recreation, think that they look distinct from the rest of the website. And especially with tourism, you have different needs. Your needs for tourism is to show, video and pictures prominently, whereas, the rest of the government website, you want to be easy for them to find what they're looking for as far as, DOD and all that stuff.
Okay.
No, just about, go with what you were saying, I'm getting the same thing with campgrounds, and on a couple other campgrounds, I talked to people who wait till the last minute, the last minute thing, and,
We don't know what they want to do.
of course, we lost Canada, so a third of my business is gone to the border, so, but we're picking up in Rochester, Syracuse, and Binghamton, north of Albany, basically, kind of filling in the gap.
Sorry, the numbers do look pretty good.
So is there any, I didn't go through all the actions, but you have them in front of you. Is there any other questions that we can answer?
I think probably should have another meeting, in a couple of weeks or something, and what do you think?
Yeah, no, absolutely, we'd like to get them.
Give us time to go through this and digest this.
They can keep moving forward, like they have, well, we can have talk about it next board meeting, and then, whatever, and get it, we talk about it, and move forward.
I'd just like to make a comment. I'd like to thank your tax group and your earnings group, everybody up in A and everybody on that committee for doing all this work. I know it's a lot of your time. We're going to go through that part of our life right now. And in my opinion, you did a great job. And we get it going again, please come back. Hopefully it works out perfect, and we're all open to that. Get people back.
You heard it, Greg wants perfection. He said perfect.
But we have somebody coming on, so I hate to cut it very short, but
No,
it's,
that's why we're watching the clock.
yeah, and thank you very much for coming, really do appreciate it, and I know you guys do a lot of stuff behind the scenes that we don't see a lot of the time. But this is very good that we have this to work on.
Okay, well, thank you for your time.
Can you just throw out one thing?
Yeah.
Really consider unpausing Jeremy so we can get going and get things in place for us, so when things open up, we're ready to go.
Yeah, bring it up to the meeting.
See you at noon, Jeremy. See you back at noon.
Not going too far.
Thank you very much. Really do appreciate it. Andrew, you might want to sanitize your area before you sleep.
I agree. I knew he always wanted to be me.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew.
I would want to be you.
Yep, he's out of my seat.
Oh, boy.
He's gonna be me.
Stuff would be getting done.
Oh, wonderful.
Stuff would be getting
Thank
done.
you.
That'd be something.
How you doing, Paul?
That'd be good with that.
Good, Don. How's everybody today?
Oh, lovely.
Greg?
I'm gonna go stand inside my chair
You better.
and my desk.
Sloan, how are you today?
Doing great.
I'm still waiting to buy you that ice cream cone.
So are we.
It's 11 o'clock now, so,
I'll kind of.
oh, we just gotta wait for Paul to come back, and we'll be just a few seconds.
You want to go there? I'll go on that way.
Oh,
There's still some here, really. Unless
you know me, I like food.
those 3 doors could be for me, if nobody takes.
So, Paul Maroon, are you going to buy ice cream for everyone, or?
Everyone who comes to Tupper Lake and doesn't call me when they come through, I will buy an ice cream cone for the next time. Can you imagine the congresswoman came to Tupper Lake and didn't tell me it was here?
I was spotted at Stewart's on the way. I was getting gas
My
at
heart was
Stewart's.
broken.
Next time, Paul, I was doing a long drive and I saw lots of constituents at Stewart's.
I heard you did. I heard you saw one of the great bikers there with a big long beard.
Yes.
He's going to have you come out to his biker bar someday.
We'll have to follow up.
Okay. Just while everybody's on, Don,
Yes?
just so everybody knows, there was a question this morning on the control room. Correction facilities will start. I told Donna after I talked to the commissioner. August 5th, maximum security prisons will start visitation, and August 8th, minimum and mediums will start visitation. There's a whole list of protocols that are in place, and Donna has a copy I think she can share with everybody.
She did. No, he has a different document,
Oh,
but it's
yes.
in my text, so I have to.
So, is the state busing them, or they have to come up individually?
Excuse me?
They're opening visitation, so does that mean the state is going to send the bus, or do the individuals that are coming to visit need to drive up separately?
You know, I didn't ask them that. I assume they're going to bus, but I don't know that. I have to check back.
We probably should talk about that later, because Elise is on it.
Yeah, but also for Elise, it'd be interesting to know that, because the fact that the state is going to bus people to our region, but they don't allow other places to be open, like bowling lanes and gyms and.
She's federal, she's not state.
Okay.
She also has to do the federal prison.
That's,
And, you know.
That's
not for, okay.
That's not.
No, but still, it's just a fact.
Don, can I
Okay,
start the first
Please,
question off for
take it back.
Congresswoman?
Yes, please.
First question, Elise. Congresswoman, my question is, FEMA, the applications for FEMA reimbursements for the county and local governments, according to our Director of Emergency Services, we're not allowed to, they're not taking the information yet, and I'm wondering if you could check on that for us.
Absolutely, I can check on that. If my office has already been notified, I'm sure they've already opened a case with FEMA, but we've had obviously lots of FEMA cases over the years in the district. We'll absolutely check on that and get back to you.
Thank you.
Did you, Elise, did you have something that you wanted to go down through and then we could ask questions, or did you want?
Perfect. I was just I was trying to hear as much as I could, but thanks for the opportunity to connect. Thanks for all the great work from Franklin County. I know we've been in touch throughout this crisis. I thought today I would outline sort of where the COVID package stands in negotiations and the likelihood of getting it done, hopefully by the end of next week. So right now, there are a number of provisions. Most importantly, I think, let's talk about the support for school districts. The bill that McConnell has put forth includes $105 billion of direct payments to school districts. We've been in touch with superintendents all across our district of the importance of that direct federal funding. Democrats have also put forward funding for school districts. So the good news is both parties agree, and the compromise will likely have significant federal aid, certainly $105 billion at a minimum to school districts. And we know that our school districts are working hard, investing in PPE and putting forth their solutions. In addition, for our small businesses, many of our tourist-related businesses and seasonal businesses who have been hit really hard in our district, I believe that they should be eligible for an additional round of the Paycheck Protection Program. We worked very closely with them to make sure that the guidance from Treasury was workable for seasonal businesses. This bill would allow a second round of paycheck protection. So I think that's a good economic resource for businesses to ensure that they keep the jobs available and keep workers on their payroll. In addition, there's a lot of discussion about the pandemic unemployment insurance, the additional $600. I'm sure many of you are hearing from businesses who are struggling to rehire people. That expires at the end of this month, so in the next few days. I believe that we need to have a reasonable approach to provide support for those who are out of work for no fault of their own, but it needs to be geared towards the incentive getting folks back to work. So the proposal is to meet 70% of their previous wages with additional pandemic unemployment assistance. So the incentive is for businesses will be able to rehire their workers who have struggled to do so. In addition, I've been in touch with many of our hospitals, community health centers, other facilities that are conducting the tests, and there is a lag in some of the tests coming back in a timely fashion. This was something that we faced early on in the crisis and got under control, and now there seems to be a little bit more of a lag. There will be billions of dollars for testing, contact tracing, and surveillance in states. $16 billion is the number that has been laid out. We're likely to be somewhere above that, I think, in the compromise. Addition liability protections, that's for any place of work, not just businesses, but nonprofits, as well as colleges and universities, making sure that if an entity is acting in good faith to protect their workforce, that there are those liability protections that are temporary during a COVID pandemic. Good news on the vaccination development. We are in phase 3 of the vaccination development, and we've put billions of dollars to invest in the vaccine development. That ultimately is the key, and this will be the fastest vaccination development of any vaccine in human history. So a real achievement of innovation in science and medicine. Childcare, that is an issue that's really tough for families, and it's on top of being tough as it is in rural regions like ours that have a challenge when it comes to affordable childcare. There will be support for childcare as well as childcare facilities through the Child Care Development Block Grant. That is going to be important to make sure that it applies to rural communities like ours. In addition, there will be more hospital money. I know that Adirondack Health has gotten multiple rounds of direct federal aid, which I work really hard with all the hospitals to make sure that their unique needs were met. And then most importantly, state and local aid, which I know is of top concern to Franklin County. The bill that I'm pushing is the $500 billion bill, which ensures that rural counties get direct aid. They were left out of previous rounds, and we need to make sure that even if your population is less than downstate, we have still faced significant economic and fiscal challenges, so that support for rural municipalities and counties is going to be extremely important. We're technically out of session as of Friday and back to our districts. I'll be going back to the district this weekend. However, we will be called back into session when we have a final bill. So negotiations are ongoing. I think it's going to slip into next week. I think it's unlikely that it'll get done by Friday. However, I know that time is of the essence here, particularly to have some type of economic certainty. So that is my update. I'm happy to take questions on any issue.
I'd like to, Lisa, we had a conference call with NISAC last night, and they talked about the skinny bill. I don't know what the skinny bill is. They talked about that it wasn't good. I don't know what it is.
So the skinny bill is focused on the fact that the pandemic unemployment assistance is expiring this weekend. And we don't want there to be that gap of uncertainty for those that are out of work. The skinny bill proposal has been, okay, let's just deal with that specific issue, and then we can negotiate all these other items. My assessment and what I want to focus on is continuing to get a bipartisan compromise bill that focuses on all the aspects that I just laid out. I think a skinny bill is probably unlikely, but I know that some people are pushing that. But my gut tells me that it is unlikely.
Because the skinny bill does nothing for aid to localities, correct? And is that correct? If that's all that got through, it wouldn't support the localities.
So the skinny bill would be, the real purpose is to make sure that you don't have that gap in unemployment assistance, the additional pandemic. So it doesn't touch on not just the state and local funding, but the testing, the child care, the additional rounds of paycheck protection program. I do think it is important to make sure that you don't have that gap and uncertainty for people out of work. But my focus is getting a bill done that meets all of these needs.
So, Congresswoman, you will support direct payment to localities, right? And not have that slide through the state so that it all gets sent to the state and maybe we won't get anything?
That's a big concern of mine. We saw with the FMAP dollars that it was withheld for far too long before it was released to the counties. And it wasn't until that I really publicly called out the governor to release it to the counties that it was released. I think the more direct aid, the better. I think that goes for school districts as well, and certainly goes for counties and municipalities. Again, I do get concerned that when the aid only goes to Albany, that it's withheld or, they take their priorities off the top and doesn't go directly to the communities that need it.
Thank you.
And in the bill that was, I watched it on TV the other night there, and there was no reimbursement I could see in there for state or local governments at all. It wasn't in the bill.
Well, the New York delegation is working on reimbursement and direct aid to state and local governments. So the bill that was introduced by McConnell, unfortunately, did not include that. I've publicly called on McConnell, and it was covered widely in New York media for the importance of state and local aid. I anticipate that in the compromise bill, there will be state and local aid, and it's no longer just a New York issue. I mean, look at other states that have been severely impacted by COVID. None quite as much as New York State, but they are still impacted heavily. And again, this is a compromise. I've worked through a lot of these compromise bills over the past 6 years, and I anticipate there will be state and local aid. And the New York delegation, Republicans and Democrats, have been on the same page and have been advocating for that state and local aid. I think the most likely number is around the $500 billion that we've outlined, which is a bicameral, bipartisan bill. That's where I think we'll end up.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Could you say more about the child care block grant? You were indicating encouraging that for rural areas where child care may not be in existence. Would it apply to creating new child care as well?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think that's Lindy asking the question. New child care facilities that are popping up because people are making do and having to get creative. So yes, it would support in-home child care facilities and newly created child care facilities. So it's a real need in our community, and I think that funding needs to be as flexible as possible to ensure that we have support for these newly created child care facilities.
Yeah, they're really going to be important this year. If we go to school this year, half and half, parents are already struggling getting their kids proper child care. And I'm extremely concerned over Department of Social Services with the amount of eyes not on children that things may be happening, may not be happening. We have concerns, and if teachers are seeing issues with children, now hopefully we have the proper child care that can continue to have that extra set of eyes that teachers have to report neglect or abuse. So I'm extremely nervous with the school district going into half-time schooling this year with the lack of eyes on children with neglecting situations.
Yeah, in my conversations with teachers, parents, and superintendents and social workers, there has been a severe underbelly to this stay-at-home and education from home. In some cases, my conversations with teachers who are going above and beyond and incredible, that they've lost touch with many of the households who are not responding, including to safe home visits when they try to really ensure that the student is getting what they need. We are seeing increases in instances of child abuse as well as domestic violence. And for many students in our region, school provides important nutritional resources, and our school districts are working hard to make sure that they are providing those meals throughout the summer as well as when the schools were closed and online only. But I'm very concerned about students who have fallen between the cracks, and we need to make sure that we're serving them as well as students with disabilities and special needs. When you talk to parents or teachers of our special needs students, it has been extremely challenging with online learning, and we need to make sure that we're meeting the needs of those students. So I know that our school districts are putting forth really well thought out plans with at least a portion of in-person learning. I think that's really, really important for our education, but also for our students' well-being and health. And of course, it's going to be different than it was last fall. There's going to be extensive PPE expenditures. There's going to be different operations in the school, different setups in the classroom. But I really think that our local superintendents are putting in a ton of work to make sure that we have a safe environment for the students and teachers.
So I'm very concerned about the supply and demand around the PPE and and it not being available. We tried to order gloves for our adult centers that are preparing meals. And our contractor said they have a case left, they can give it to us, and then the price is going up 80%. So, you know, I let our local BOCES superintendent know the concern around that. But as schools reopen, they're all going to try to get all of this PPE, and I'm not sure how we're going to be ready for that. There is clearly a shortage around it. So
Yeah.
do you have ideas about that?
Yes, in this bill, there is also additional funding for PPE. We've also used the Defense Production Act. So the president has used that 33 times, requiring businesses to manufacture PPE. That's important, including Rochester, New York. They're pivoting Code Act, and it's a really creative way to use the Defense Production Act to make sure that we have the domestic manufacturing capabilities. Clearly, this is, you know, looking back, one of the lessons learned, our over-reliance upon China and other countries to import PPE. We have to have the domestic and North American capabilities to manufacture here. And there is funding for the PPE in the bill, but at the local level, as you continue to get that feedback, that's helpful for me to hear, so we can do as much as we can as early as possible. So gloves, any other PPEs that have been difficult to track down lately in particular?
Body bags, we've had some difficulty around that, which is, you know, beyond unfortunate, right?
We're hoping we don't need it.
And some thermometers, you know, the schools keep calling our EOC, looking for some thermometers, all the PPE, and, you know, we aren't sure where that's going to land. Who's supposed to supply that? Is it coming through the EOC? Is it coming through the BOCES district? Is it coming to individual school districts? So it'd be really helpful to, one, know how we access that, and two, who's responsible for that?
So the responsibility is a combination of the feds and the state. I know the state is making decisions about how to allocate PPE as they have throughout the crisis, as we deal with different numbers in the different regions. When it comes to the federal dollars for schools, that's why it's so important to get this bill done, because providing clarity for where school districts can go for PPE is going to be really, really important. And I imagine at the state level, they're probably going to, again, I don't know the specifics as to what the decision that will be made at the state level, but probably the BOCES or school district level, they'll make that available.
Any more questions?
Elise,
So,
the overall bill, are you thinking it's going to be about $1 trillion, or is it going to be more?
Well, the two bills, one is 1 trillion, one is 4 trillion. I think it's going to be somewhere in between.
Okay, thank you.
And what are the two bills? What are the names? Because I've heard of like 4 names so far.
One is called the HEALS Act. The other is called the HEROES Act. And then you have what Don pointed out is what's being referenced as the skinny bill. There is likely to, the compromise bill is likely to have a different name. So again, I just kind of walked through some of the markers of what has been proposed so far.
Thank you.
We don't like anything skinny, so.
We don't want the skinny bill only.
Congresswoman, just on a different subject, I want to thank you for what you did in the defense authorization bill for Fort Drum and for the veterans, the salary pay scale, and what you got Fort Drum designated at. It doesn't really affect us immediately, but it's a large economic and positive boom for the North Country and for Fort Drum. Thank you.
Yeah, that's, you know, it is important to the district. There are a lot of important military family provisions, and even though it's in Jefferson County, it does have an impact all across the district, because a lot of those families spend time in other parts of the Adirondacks and invest in our local economy. And it's a good bipartisan victory. Not a lot of that happening, unfortunately, in the news right now, but that happened just 2 weeks ago. So that was a big win to get it across the finish line with overwhelming bipartisan support. And then the border issue, I forgot to mention that. I'll revisit that. Northern border, obviously that's had an impact on our district. And while we've been able to carve out the essential workers, importantly for our hospitals, those Canadian workers who work in U.S. hospitals, as well as the essential trade, the impact on tourism continues to be a challenge. I'm working with my colleague, Brian Higgins, who's also from the New York delegation, to continue our conversations with our Canadian counterparts, urging them they're concerned about reopening the border, and we need to have clarity and guidance and a gradual reopening to provide that, certainty for our businesses and our communities.
Yeah, and Congresswoman, beyond that, the Montreal, airports for us is the largest and easiest international airport, and it's, we can't access that. I've been in touch, but my daughter is home, but we didn't do an act of Congress to open up those borders to get her here. And so it was it was difficult to get her home, but, if those conversations can happen or even around the airports would be beneficial.
Yeah, and vice versa, the airports on our side, many Canadians rely on our airports that we've invested in, like Plattsburgh, that has drawn many Canadian customers and helped our local economy. So it has hit our airports hard. I have announced federal funding to Adirondack Airport, Plattsburgh Airport, Ogdensburg Airport, Watertown, some of the rural airports that are so important in the district.
Can you say more about that, Congressman? Congresswoman, and thank you for doing that. This is Lindy.
Yep, I'm pulling up the exact number for Adirondack Regional Airport. Let me pull it up. So this was 7 days ago. It's a $2 million, $2.7 million from the FAA. This funding will go to the runway rehabilitation. But again, it's just an understanding that our rural airports are in challenging circumstances given the lack of travel right now. So it was 2.7 million. Plattsburgh has gotten millions of dollars of funding, and I announced that last week.
Thank you so much.
Congresswoman Stefanik, any extra grants coming out regarding food distribution? Blazers Packing has done several milk distributions, produce boxes and dairy boxes in Franklin County. Will that get extended, do you know, or at the end of August we're completed on those grants?
I think there will be I think it will be extended, just given that we're continuing to having positive COVID cases and there's a continued need out there. We will stay in touch as there's more clarity on that. I know how important those nutritional programs have been for this region. I mean, folks are driving from over an hour away. An hour is not that long of a drive in this district, but they're driving hours to access food programs.
Okay. It's been a great help in our region. I know Lindy's done one. We're doing one in Tucker Lake next week with Paul Maroon. We've done several in the village of Malone, and we start serving the residents at 8 o'clock in the morning, and they're lining up at 5:30, 6 o'clock.
Yeah. When are you doing the Tupper Lake one? I'll be in touch with you about that, Paul, to see if I would love to participate in one of them in the future.
August 8th is Tupper Lake.
Okay.
August 8th.
Thank you very much for giving us an update on all that, and now we understand things a little better than we did. And hopefully it comes out the way we want to see it come out also. And I know you're representing us there. So.
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity to connect. Don't hesitate to reach out, and I'll follow up on the FEMA issue, the nutritional programs grant issue, and as soon as the bill is finalized, we'll of course get it out to all of you. Thanks for the questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Stay safe.
Well, now we're gonna look at Paul.
That was good. That was good.
Everybody. Ice drink cones for everybody in Tupper Lake.
All right.
Andrea, in answer to your question, Corrections does not bus directly anymore. They're all contracted. They're not contracted. They're private groups that come together. They used to bus. You'd see Corrections Department buses bringing in visitors. That has ended.
Okay, so it's going to be a third-party organization bringing them in.
Done that way for years.
Well, I just know that
Hopefully they were.
today, I believe everybody should be getting messages from several workers that they're very concerned over visitation starting, wanting to know what Franklin County is putting forward. And I'm like, it's the governor, it's not up, I mean, it's
We'll
not the.
bring it up at the control room, but
Right, I had a message last night and I sent you what she shared with me, but this was my response. That, you know, I would let public health know, the legislature, but we're very cautious about making a huge noise around this because the prisons employ a lot of people in our area. And so we always know there's conversation about prison closures. So you kind of want to balance that conversation so that we can have an expectation that CDC regulations and everything that we can do to put in place to safeguard everyone and minimize the risk of the spread, but also not be identified as a prison that might be closed.
Well, I know that I've talked to a couple of the superintendents and they've worked extremely hard to continue to keep their prisons safe with their PPE, you know, their
Absolutely.
protocols and cleaning and face masks and social distancing and
Spreading out the individual.
Our state prisons here have done an excellent job. An excellent job.
Putting the visiting, people, the numbers like in half, I think.
Yes.
Right.
And plus they're having the contacts are going to be they're not going to be contact visits pretty much. They're going to have like a table with, what I was told, plexiglass down through it, something like that. So it's going to be
things are changing.
much better.
There's an article in today's Telegraph about it.
Yeah, I think it'll be really good. What will be extremely important is that our local public health department, you know, works closely, that they have a great relationship with our local prison system.
But like you said, Don, if we keep bitching about the prisons, they're good at the chopping block. We all know that. Could be all three of them, who knows?
So let's just do it right, let's do our best.
do your best to continue to stay healthy,
And
continue to wear your mask, use your sanitizer, 6 feet away from each other.
wash your hands.
But, you know, just because they're coming to visit their family members that are in prison, there's other people coming to the community too.
I wonder if they're being
I just gotta be
required to
safe.
wear
We just have to make
masks
sure they do it.
during
right.
those visits.
Yeah, it says right here, I mean,
They are, it does, yeah,
Temperatures also,
yeah.
I mean, it's.
So they're doing a lot.
They're doing a lot.
People get all nervous, I think they should.
Well, but it's good that we know the answers to get to them though, when they do ask those questions, so, because you never, everybody has one.
Ed says, speaking of which.
So,
Can we take a short bio
yeah,
break?
we'll just take a short break and then, we actually not meeting again till noon, but we may have other things we want to discuss.
Well, I think there are, but,
You know, we're not.
You said you have one every.
can we go and see that?
And then come back on in a half an hour.
Before they changed the law.
Why don't we come back in 15 minutes and do a contract discussion?
Right. Negotiations.
Yeah, negotiations.
Some people come back.
So-
Who made those donuts?
Yeah.
Delicious.
So,
I didn't think,
so maybe,
I would have brought more guys, but they tasted too good.
Don, Don,
I didn't know if you appreciate it.
could we come back in 15 minutes?
Yeah,
and
let's take
do
a
an
15, yeah.
executive session?
Sure.
Okay. 15 minutes, come back?
He's in charge.
He said sure. He said sure. He said sure.
Who you got left, Jeremy?
Yeah.
So Paul, we're going to come back in 15 minutes.
Probably could.
Okay,